Yeah, I'm a little confused what they mean by praying in the streets, whether this is sort of religious parades. I mean, how do they actually stop people from doing that?
Public prayer keeps making the news here. Welcome back to Moose on Loose. My name's David. Today we've got Quebec. Once again, they're talking about public prayer, banning it in the streets, no longer blocking major infrastructure. It already is illegal, but they want to ban it now, so I guess it's easier to enforce. We've got Tom Mulcair giving his take on this, which is the silliest thing you'll ever hear. Let's jump into this. Starting this one off, we've got Pierre Poilievre fact-checking a reporter here. Reporter brings up Mark Carney's magical list of major projects in Canada, one that doesn't exist. Pierre fact-checks him hard, dropping some serious truth bombs.
The list of projects, it includes
dream list.
It includes a pipeline from Alberta to the Pacific, which you've been advocating. What do you make of that inclusion?
Okay, so to be clear, what is this list? Is this the list of things he's going to build? Is this the list of that this office is reviewing? What is this list? It's a dream list. We can't even. So what he said and what he's leaked to the Globe is that somebody put together a list of projects that some people who are not in the government would like to see built, that one day Mark Carney's future office will examine and consider possibly deciding on. That's what we're dealing with here. So despite the blazing headlines about a list, what this is a dream list that does not exist anywhere in reality. Mr. Carney, on the question of a pipeline to the Pacific, of course I support it. If I'd been elected Prime Minister on April 28th, construction would be underway right now on that project. And if you question that, I'll tell you how. We already had an approved project to go from Hardisty, Alberta to Kitimat. The route, the pathway is already there. 80% of First Nations already endorsed the project. Why not get building? What's there to study?
Pierre's just coming locked and loaded with facts here. He was ready for this. He's been ready for this. Not only that project, there's a bunch of projects that could be easily on the way right now. Mark Carney saying he's going to move fast. Remember that? He said he's going to move faster than anyone before. Shovels in the ground, projects are going to be happening. It's been 5 months. Literally nothing has happened. He set up an office to think about what projects are going to be happening. So much for fast. Mark Carney's delaying things out. He needs Donald Trump to be the boogeyman to get reelected. He's dragging this out, thinking Canadians are too stupid to figure this out.
We already know that there's 2 billion people in Asia that want to buy that energy. So it's a no-brainer, and it would have been under construction today. Well, it would have been under construction 10 years ago had Trudeau not killed it, and it would be under construction if I had been chosen. Of course, this was the subject of a very big disagreement Mr. Carney and I had at the industry committee before we were both leaders. We had a big debate about it. He said he was against the Northern Gateway pipeline. I said I was for. And he was simultaneously having his company invested in pipelines in Brazil and the Middle East at the time, but not wanting to build one in Canada. That's the difference. I want to build stuff here in this country.
Yeah, so Brookfield investing in pipelines in the Middle East and in Brazil, but doesn't want prosperity for Canadian oil and gas, unless it goes through Brookfield companies. Brookfield does have some, but it seems they don't want to create more competition for their other oil and gas producers. That's what it really looks like. They just bought Colonial Pipeline in America. They don't want to create more competition for that. Pierre was ready for this question. I don't think that reporter was ready to get fact-checked so hard. Citizens are getting fed up with all this crime, all the protesting, and we're seeing this here. Quebec government working to ban public prayer. So I showed this on the channel a few days ago. We got Tom Mulcair on here. Listen to this take. Tom Mulcair's out to lunch.
The provincial government in Quebec says it's planning to ban prayer in public places. It's part of a move, it says, to strengthen secularism in the province. The government says it is unhappy with a growing number of people who are praying in the streets, especially in Montreal, and the minister responsible will propose a new law to ban it this fall. Joining me now from Quebec is CTV News political commentator, former leader of the NDP, Tom Mulcair, a man who spent many years as a politician in Quebec, both provincially and then federally. Tom, good to see you on this Friday. What do you think?
Good to be with you, Todd.
What's your take?
This is not a bill about banning prayer in the streets. This is a political reaction to talk to the base of the Cpac government, the people who vote for them, and it is essentially targeting Muslims. You know, there have been prayers and processions in the streets of Quebec and Montreal for centuries. It's never been a problem.
Oh, please. That's not what we're seeing. We're not seeing a once a year people walking down the streets having a religious celebration. We're seeing people blocking ambulances. I just showed it on my second channel, literally blocking ambulances from driving down the street. Canadians can be perishing because these people are protesting or praying in the streets.
In the wake of the horrific Hamas attack and the taking of the hostages in Israel and the ensuing war between Israel and Hamas, of course, we've seen it across the country. Things have gotten very heated. Part of that has been some protests that turned into an occasion to block traffic and say, well, we're praying in the streets. So that's one thing. But what the government is claiming to be able to do is what it did in Bill 21, which is about to go before the Supreme Court. In that law, they said you cannot be a teacher, you cannot be a police officer, for example, or a prosecutor, if you wear a turban, a headband, a yarmulke, a headscarf. In the case of a teacher, you can imagine. So a lot of Muslim women, for example, who had been recruited to come and teach in Quebec from the French-speaking North African countries. They were told once they got here that, they had all the qualifications and yep, they had topped them up and they were ready to go, but got to get rid of that headscarf. And so they wound up working in other provinces, of course, and refused to eschew their right to express their religion's pertinence. So what we've seen time and again in Quebec under the CAQ is that they've been playing a very dangerous game with minorities.
This is a dangerous game, his wording here. You can't go into a bank with a face covering because banks will assume you're a bank robber. But then you can say, oh, it's religious though. It's okay to cover your face going into a bank if it's religious, but if you're a robber, you're not. That's the problem here. This is Canada. People don't have to come here. We don't have to accommodate every single thing from all over the world. Most people don't like face coverings because it's deceptive. That's how we perceive it in our culture.
Whether it's religious minorities or linguistic minorities going after the English-speaking community of Quebec, for example. So this is the latest iteration of that, Todd. And it's the CAQ government in a bind. They are on the ropes. They're getting pummeled over a huge scandal that is now turning into a serious fraud allegation scandal. $500 million gone missing in a contract to redo the computer systems and the programming at the Automobile Insurance Board of the province. So it was supposed to cost $500,000. Now it looks like it might cost $1.2 billion, something like that. And so there's a commission of inquiry going on right now. The next star witness next Tuesday is a certain Francois Legault, who has earned himself a ticket to become a witness in the very commission of inquiry that he called. So they're in trouble politically. So when you're in trouble, you play to your base, and they're playing to the base that helped them get elected because they promised to go after religious minorities. Muslim women seem to be the target of preference because, for example, Bill 21 has an entire chapter that can only apply to Muslim women.
That's not what's going on. People want fire trucks to be able to drive through the streets without having a bunch of buffoons blocking major infrastructure, which is against the law. Why wouldn't he bring up that it's against the law for Muslims to pray in the middle of the street? They didn't pay for the streets. It's not private land. They're not allowed to do that. It affects Canadians' lives. It affects Canadian safety. Have a backbone here, Tom.
Again, the CAQ government playing against minorities, and we'll see what, if anything, the federal government will do if and when they introduce this new bill, which is, again, meant to distract from the trouble that they're in politically.
Yeah, I'm a little confused what they mean by praying in the streets, whether this is sort of religious parades. I mean, how do they actually stop people from doing that? Are they going to find people who pray? Like, how's that going to work?
Oh, come on. We all know what it is. It's 55 people on their knees blocking the road. There's mosques all over Montreal and anywhere else. They choose to block our streets.
Yeah, I'm part of the religious majority in Quebec. And the argument around secularism is that, oh, the Catholic Church used to run the schools and the hospitals, and we got rid of that. That's called secularism. And so it's just the continuation of that work. But that's poppycock. That's just not true. So I've been to dozens of processions and parades over the years with, for example, the Portuguese community who like to celebrate their faith in these beautiful, magnificent processions, lots of flowers in the streets, the Italian.
Oh, come on. There aren't Portuguese blocking the streets, praying in the streets. Get real. Same thing with the Italians. The Italians are not blocking the streets. The English aren't blocking the streets. The Dutch, the Germans, the Chinese, the Vietnamese. There's only one group that blocks our streets. That's why you're seeing the Montreal government now wanting to ban this. Ban public prayer for good. This happens the most in Montreal. That's why. I mean,
for you to educate and learn more about what's happening, about the different faiths.
Like, get out of the road. You're endangering society with this. What if an ambulance has to come through? You don't care about us? You don't care about society? Get out of the road.
Community as well. Heck, St. Patrick's Day begins with a green mass, the very official celebrations that are very much part of secular life in the province.
Come on, man. St. Patrick's Day, these parades are registered events. And then they have their parade, and then it's done. It's one time per year. They're official events with permits. These mass praying sessions in the middle of the streets or the protests are not permitted events.
Go back. So there's a lot of what Legault is saying that, of course, doesn't hold water. He had a report handed to him
Everything coming out of Tom's mouth doesn't hold water. I just fact-checked him like 8 times.
this week by people who had been cherry-picked to tell him exactly what he wanted to hear. One of the people who's on that committee has a very strong opinion that any woman who's wearing a headscarf has been coerced. It doesn't really matter what she tries to say. It's a symbol of domination of women by men. And this is as if to say that you're judging other people's religious beliefs against your own. And if they're not the same, then you get to legislate against them. It's unbelievable. But that's been going on now since the Cpac came in 7 years ago.
I don't want someone who's deceptive walking around, because what we have is a bunch of these Palestinian protesters commit crimes, and then because their face is covered, they get away with them. That's why we don't want face coverings. That's why they don't allow face coverings in the bank. So it has nothing to do with wanting to restrict a woman's ability to cover her face or whatever. It has everything to do with preventing crime.
Tom was the very first politician I ever interviewed back in 2000, in the summer of that year when I was just a junior reporter at CTV Montreal. I don't know if you remember that, Tom, but you and I go way back, 25 years.
I remember meeting you very early on in your career. There are two people that I can say the same thing about, you and Mark Kelly, who's over at the CBC. I was his first interview at the Office des Professionnels. So you've turned out to have a sterling career. My politics is behind me now. Now you just get to say what everybody else is doing wrong. That's great.
Yeah, but you're one heck of a commentator, and we love you here at CTV. All the best, my friend.
Ugh. Blocking streets and taking over public spaces to hold mass worship is not socially acceptable regardless of your beliefs. Shutting down streets is not the same as holding prayer in public place that has been scheduled. Exactly. And a lot of these places, they schedule out an event, a pagoda, a certain area, a rotunda, and they have their event. They're not blocking downtown Toronto. Like, let's get real. They wouldn't dare pray down in Dubai streets. I mean, look at this one here. This is just makes your blood boil. You've got Chris Barber and Tamara Leach getting charged for mischief, honking horns. Well, what are these buffoons doing? Charge them all. If Tamara and Chris get prosecuted and have to go to jail, then all of these people have to go to jail. All of them. Is this a noise violation? Where are all the liberals angry about the Freedom Convoy and the honking horns? Where are they now? Sounds like a lot of honking horns to me. Mischief for all of them. What else are we seeing in Canada? This. Look at this list here. Most notably, I brought up recently Keenan Bexty, Juno News being investigated. John Carpe just got disbarred. I don't really know much of the details of this, but you see here, Law Society of Alberta on September 2nd. Hearing committee, the Law Society Alberta ordered John Carpe disbarred effectively immediately. At the time of disbarment, Mr. Carpe was suspended member of the Law Society of Alberta. You're wondering who John Carpe is? He's a lawyer for the Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms, the JCCF. Okay, so let's move over to Sean Fraser. Look, he's posting this. Congratulations to Dawn Farrell on being chosen to head Canada's new major projects office. I've invited her out to the East Coast so she can check out Atlantic Canada Advantage firsthand. With that, him congratulating Dawn Farrell. Dawn Farrell connected Mark Carney with ATCO, as well as these guys from Brookfield Renewables, the TransAlta deal here with Brookfield, $750 million. Well, she's in the news again. This time she's on Blacklock's Reporter here. CEO failed in legal duties. Is this the kind of character Mark Carney likes to hang out with? Seems like it. A cabinet appointee named to oversee nation-building projects was cited for failing in her duties in a 2023 federal court case, records show. Counsel for the Information Commissioner filed the lawsuit 2 years ago after Farrell repeatedly ignored lawful orders to answer public demands for release of records from Trans Mountain Corporation. Farrell was CEO of the taxpayer-owned Trans Mountain at the time. Now listen to this here. Court records showed in 2019 an access to information request was submitted for all files, audio, audio or video recordings, text messages, security briefings, documents, reports, or correspondence referring to individuals with a specific organization. The organization was unnamed, but it is believed to be First Nation or environmental group. Of course it is. The same place where all of our money gets laundered. You got corrupt chiefs making $644,000 a year or $912,000 a year, or you got this dirty green grift going on with the SDTC documents, big greasy green slush fund where our money just disappears and ends up in well-connected liberal insider bank accounts. No, I'm not surprised. And considering she didn't want to give up this information, it makes perfect sense why Mark Carney chose her. Documents indicate the request was ignored. The information commissioner issued an order that CEO Farrell, within 30 days, either confirm the existence of the records and release them, provide some legal reason they should be censored, or justify any claim that the files did not exist. The order was also ignored. Put her in jail. She doesn't want to give up the documents. Put her in jail for a year. Maybe that'll clear her mind. And while we're talking about Don Farrell, we've got this. Mark Carney's new head of his projects office is set to make between $577,000 and $679,000 a year. That is way more than the prime minister. This is absurd. Yeah, no wonder she took that job. She'll do Carney's bidding and get paid a crap ton of money per year doing it. Moving ahead, we've got some good old-fashioned Canadian crime here. Around 3:30 p.m., a masked suspect allegedly stole a bag containing roughly $80,000 from a woman sitting in her parked car at Ridgeway Plaza in Mississauga. So I've got two questions. Who carries around a bag with what? That's the second question. What do they have that's worth $80,000, and why would somebody be carrying that? Regardless, we got this thief coming in here. The window must have been rolled down. You're gonna see him snatch the bag and start running here. He goes for it. There's like a squeak there, so obviously there's a lady in there. And off he goes. That's Canada right there every day. Even if he gets caught, probably won't go to jail. $80,000 in a Kia, whatever that is. Is it like a jewelry store, maybe? Speed is at 1.5 times. That's why there was a squeak there. A lot of people asking the same thing. Why would you have $80,000 cash in the car? Regardless, more gangsters and goons. They don't get charged in Canada. Criminals are just allowed to just steal everything and anything, and Canadians have to comply. Sounds like an inside job. How do you randomly know she had $80,000 cash? Yeah, it's probably some sort of jewelry store or something where they knew that money was going to be there in that purse. An ex-employee or something like that.